This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast.
Hey! Time for school!
Hey, school success makers. In just a few moments, you're going to hear from my new friend, Bertrand, who is the principal of the New York French-American Charter School in, of course, New York City. We dive into all things that's happening at his school, what's working and what's not. So stay tuned in just a few moments for the next episode of the School Success Podcast. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater. I'm joined by a new friend out of awesome New York, Bertrand, and he is the principal of the New York French-American Charter School up there in New York. He's doing amazing things up there, and we're going to dive into all of it. But before I take away any thunder from him, I'm going to give him an opportunity to introduce himself. So, good afternoon, and welcome to the podcast, Bertrand.
Good afternoon, Michelle. How are you doing today?
Super good, man. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me for this program this afternoon. My name is Dr. Tchoumi. I am the principal of the New York French-American Charter School in New York. I am a new principal at the school. I started in July 2021, coming straight from Baltimore, where I spent 15 years as a French teacher, assistant principal, and then founding principal of the Baltimore International Academy West. So I have a passion for language immersion, and I decided to move to New York because I'm also a risk taker. I just wanted to have more excitement in what I do and face new challenges.
I love that. Well, thank you for obviously leading that school, and I know it's new, so there's probably some fun challenges, which we'll get into in a little bit. But where'd you move from originally? Let's talk about your personal story.
Oh, originally I came from Cameroon about 18 years ago. I came in the U.S. in 2003, July 2003, as a journalist, as a World Press Institute fellow. I was a journalist for a radio station in Cameroon called the Tome Broadcasting Corporation. So I got the scholarship. I think I was the second or the third Cameroonian to ever been awarded that scholarship. I spent about 3 months to 4 months in the U.S. Visiting schools, colleges, universities, visiting different cities and states and important personality, having interviews and learning actually the culture of communication and journalism in the United States. And after the program, because of the reality back home, I could not go home. So I had to stay in the United States. But staying here, I have to make a very difficult choice to find an employment. After working in the different warehouses, I decided to go into teaching. And that's how I found myself becoming a French teacher and then moving on to the ladder and now being principal.
Very good. And when you came over, did you know any English at all?
I would say one of the advantage I came with is that I was first Cameroon. If for those who don't know, Cameroon is some people will say West Africa, but I always say it's a Central Africa, and it's a bilingual country. We were colonized by Great Britain and France, so we are lucky to have two official languages, because we also have hundreds of local tribal languages. So our official languages are French, English, a little bit like Canada. So we have a part that is English and a part that is French, and I'm coming from the French-speaking part. But as a student, I love English. I used to be part of the English club. I used to do even playing broadcasters in English. So I was actually, initially I wanted to do bilingual studies at the university, but for some reason beyond my control, I was sent to the French modern letters, but I still kept English as an option for my studies. So I love English. So I was learning English. So I wasn't that fluent like now. I'm still learning English, even though I've been here for that many years. But I learned English I went as I've been in the United States. But like when I came here, I was able to communicate. I was able to understand, to communicate, and I did a lot of studies in English also in the United States. So I think it was an advantage for me coming from Cameroon.
That's awesome. Well, obviously, I know you've been here a while, but welcome to America. And I love that story. I love that, to come over and get a start and obviously get into education like you did. I would love to know how you got involved personally with the school. I mean, I know you said it's a new school. How did that all come about where you are helping to obviously lead this new school? It's been around for a few years. How did that come about?
I would say that it was. I found New York French American Charter School by chance. To be honest, I've never really, I never sought to become a principal at New York French American Charter School because one day I found in my mail, actually in my professional mail from Baltimore City, I received a letter, an email from a hiring company. They were asking me if I knew people who would be interested in applying for that to be principal of that school, and if I were interested or if I knew people. So let me just go and Google and do a search on this school. What is the New York French American Charter School? And I found out that it was a francophone, bilingual, in New York City, at the heart of Harlem, at the place called Little Senegal, and there was a very important community of francophone immigrants coming straight from Africa or French-speaking countries. And at that time, I was at the principal at the Baltimore International Academy West. For the second year, I was the founding principal for that school. So that was my second year. And after some hesitations, I called the company. We started conversation, and you know how it goes. We start talking. They made the initial interview, second step interview. I started meeting the board member for NIFAX. I met the teachers, and I found out that it was an opportunity for me, not only to bring all my experience as a French teacher for about 8 years, assistant principal for about 4 years, principal for 2 years at an immersion school. It was an opportunity for me to lead I would say a bilingual school with one language focus, because I've been in immersion school with multiple language focus. At my school, I have Chinese, I have Spanish and French, and then I was also assistant principal in an immersion school where we have 5 language. So we have Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, Russian, and French. So I said, okay, maybe this is a time, because I'm a French speaker, I'm going to put all my attention in one language, and there's a lot I can do. So that's the story behind me becoming principal at the New York French American Charter School. I've never made the initial application.
Okay. And with that school, I'm assuming being a charter school, any kid can come to it as long as they can get transportation to the school. Anybody who wants to go can go to it?
That's correct. Whether it's in Baltimore, in New York, it's open to all residents of New York City, and as long as you can get to the school, because the admission is through lottery.
Okay. And are you guys at full capacity too, or do you guys have opening spots since you're still a newer school?
New York French American Charter School actually is not a new school. Has been there for 12 years now, since 2010, maybe 2009 even. And they are not at capacity yet, and that's one of the opportunity that I saw when applying for the position, when I was going through the process, and one of my commitment was to make sure that I bring the school to capacity. I would say we are working hard. That's one of the challenges of the school right now, is to make sure that we are at full capacity in the next coming years.
Sure. Cool. And sorry, I must have misunderstood you earlier. I thought it was a newer school, so that's my fault. I apologize. Yeah. The 10 years. I thought it was, for some reason, I heard 2.
To make it clear, I was coming from a school that was at the second year. Baltimore International Academy Westwood at the second year.
Gotcha. My bad. Was confusing them both. So thank you for correcting me on that. So obviously you kind of already referenced it, a challenge. Let's get into some challenges, because what I want, obviously my vision for this podcast, so there's school leaders listening in to learn, well, what are other schools up against? You know, a lot of people I think would agree. We got a lot of people have some of the same stuff the last couple of years, COVID and teacher retention, recruitment stuff. I know those can come up regularly, but what I'm really wanting to see is, you know, what are other schools up against? What are some challenges? And then obviously hearing some wins. You know, how are you guys obviously facing these challenges? And then we're going to obviously after that get into some wins and things that are going good. But obviously put it in your core. What are some of those challenges you guys are up against right now?
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that you don't really want to see that from the perspective of challenges. And myself, I would say that what are some opportunities that we have there? So basically, as you mentioned, one of them, which is the enrollment, because as we know, it's the funding of charter schools and schools in general is based on the population, it's per pupil. And when you have a low enrollment, means that you have low funding, and you also know that the teacher's salary will take 80% or to even more of your income. So the lower your enrollment, the more difficulty you have meeting your objective in terms of meeting the needs of students. And we also know that we're coming from about 20 months of virtual remote learning.
Well, obviously, you know, being a principal of a school, you guys are up against different challenges. So if you could kind of share, what are some of those challenges that you guys are up against specifically at your school?
This is a very great question, and I would say that my mindset I always see challenges in terms of opportunities. So even if I mention some of the challenges, for me, in the back of my mind, I see them as opportunities to bring some change and effects. Of course, when you have a school starting after 20 months of online learning, one of the first challenge that they have, or that school will have, will be how to meet the needs of students, how to recover all the learning loss. And because our diagnostic assessments are showing us that there is a big gap. There is a big gap, there is a big learning loss. And we are working hard to make sure that we are recovering those losses. So that's number one. Number two, how do we attend to students' social emotional needs? I would say students and teachers, because having been out of face-to-face learning for that amount of time, it is clear that students and teachers have developed, new ways of acting, new ways of doing things, new ways of learning, a second culture basically, and they have to come back and they have to unlearn those learning and readapt to the face-to-face learning. And there's stress associated with that. There are frustrations associated with that. So we have to make sure that we are attending to those various needs, teachers, students, staff, and the community overall. Just dealing also with the pandemic. The pandemic is not over yet. It's not like we are living in a society where there is a lot of challenges going on, a lot of I would say multiple ways of seeing the world, and we are not. We are in that society, and we about question about masks, question about vaccinations, question about testing. So we have to deal with that every single day. For instance, we have to test our students once a week on Tuesday, and every Tuesday night we just waiting with a lot of anxiously about the test. Oh, one case is positive. You have to send that message to the entire community again. You have to contact the parent. You have to make sure that next day they have the take-home test. Those are things that we have to now get used to, and that are adding, additional stress, additional anxiety to the work that we're doing. And also, one of the points that we mentioned earlier, which is enrollment, because the funding formula for school is based on the on per pupil, and so the lower if you have a low enrollment, it automatically impacts how much money you can get. And NIFAC did not have a tradition of fundraising, so I would say the only source of income is the per pupil. And when you don't have enough money and you have to keep the same amount of staff, then you have some financial strain, and that limits your ability to fulfill your mission, which is to make sure that students are getting what they need academically and socio-emotionally. So, and one of the additional point I can add here is that we are a school with two different buildings. One building, which is the pre-K through 4, and the second building, which is the 5 through 8, which is 1 block away. But that second building was selected because we didn't find a better building. It wasn't really made for a day school. It was made for an after-school program. But we are using it during the day for our students, and we did the best we could to make it very appropriate and to make it suitable. And now we have to find a new location. We have one, so now the challenge is that we have to get ready for the new location. So those are among many other, including reviving our French immersion program, which is really one of the tasks that I'm taking right now, one step at a time, because the New York French American Charter School is a language immersion school, a French language immersion school, and French should have the same equal part as English, as other subject, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Man, all right. Well, those were excellent. Obviously, thank you for sharing those. I did have a question now about how the school specifically. So if it's against French American Charter School, if can a kid come in that only knows English, come in at the 4th grade and still make it through fine without knowing any French?
Of course. That's what I say every Wednesday when we have our prospective parent night. I say, parent, this is the promise. This is a promise. This is my promise to you. You give us your most precious gift, which is your child, and we transform that monolingual student into a bilingual one within a couple of years. But you have to trust us, and you have to be willing to stay with us. So, yes, we can do that because we have a multiple program within our language immersion program. There's what we call early language immersion. Those who start in pre-K, in kindergarten through 2nd grade, and then you have late immersion after that. And the good thing is that when you have teachers who are effective, who are experienced, who know what they're doing, most of my teachers are native speakers, and they're coming from French-speaking countries, and so they have been in the U.S. for many years, so they also understand the U.S. pedagogy. So they are able to transform those students into bilingual students. Is that easy? No. But we are asking parents to trust us, and also we have to motivate students to be willing to take that risk, to be willing to make the extra effort that we are asking them so that they can become bilingual. We admit students at this point at every level.
I love that. I love it. So obviously you're up against those challenges that you guys are facing head on, but you also, this is your chance to get to brag about your school a little bit. We get what's going really awesome and going really well for you guys that you'd love to, just share with everybody who's listening.
I would say being in New York, for those who know New York, this is a free French immersion school in New York. It's a public school. It's free. So we know in New York, you will not find a school like that where the instruction is in French 100% of the time, and it's free. So that's one thing. But also, let me tell you, I have, at my school, I have teachers coming from more than 26 different nationalities.
Wow.
So if you're looking for a diverse environment, if you are looking for an environment where people are sensitive to different cultures, if you're looking for a nurturing environment, if you are looking for an environment where there's equity, French American Charter School is the right place for you. Yeah, because uh, we understand that because of that diversity, we have to make sure that we are attending to the needs of each and every child. Also, what is so great about the New York French American Charter School is that we also have a lot of students from immigrant background coming from French-speaking countries. So when you have that child who is a non-francophone child, the fact that he's the same class with his francophone peers, they learn each other while they're learning English, because a francophone child will be an ESL student learning English. Your child will be an English speaker learning French. So those are opportunities for cross-cultural communication, intercultural communication that allow for an opportunity for people to see the world in a different lens. So that's why our mission is, I would say my motto is to develop bilingual and biliterate global leaders. You see, that is it. I call my students diplomat. I call them rising diplomat, rising global leaders. That's because they have that opportunity, to be in contact with different nationalities, different cultures, a different way of different attires, different way of speaking French, and they can take it home. They can bring it to the school when needed. We make sure that they stay connected. We have all the teachers. They have a Google Classroom, and if the child is absent, they can still have access to the classes online. So teachers are very, very committed. They are very, very engaged. They love their students, and they are willing to do all what it takes to make sure that they are satisfied. And of course, the community, the parents. I have a very vibrant parent-teachers organization. We meet once a month, and they are very committed. They are very engaged. They just for the Black History Month, they organized a bingo night. They did a karaoke night, and we are planning now to do a multicultural day. So they are very engaged, and they are willing to support the school. So it's a very, very healthy environment. And if parents are looking for a special gift, I know that Christmas was over 2 months ago. It's not too late. You're looking for a gift for your child for the next school year. It's NIFAX. It's NIFAX, and I promise them I will make their child a bilingual student.
Well, I call all those a win, especially having a ton of parent engagement and everybody feeling welcome at the school. Those are huge wins, so I appreciate you sharing that, and obviously kudos to you guys for the work you're doing. As we kind of close out, I have one kind of major final question for you. Is there anything you'd like to share with any of the school leaders, any type of inspiration, encouragement, words of advice, or anything you'd like to share as we close out?
For me, I would say that, especially for somebody like me, living in an environment where I've worked for about 15 years, to go to a new environment, I think what I can say is that the personal leadership is very important. How you work with other people, the interaction with your staff, the interaction with students, the interaction with parents, is a key. For me, it's very, very important, because if you really want people you want to influence them, if you want to motivate them to understand what you want to do and to work with you, you want them to trust you. You really want them to believe in you and to give you that authorization to lead them, basically. Because if not, for someone coming from, I would say, a different place, it will not be easy. But I think what I would say is that having that humility to be a learner all the time will go a long way.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for giving of your time, giving of your your resources, of course, to these kids and this next generation and pouring into them. I'm a huge fan of the bilingual stuff because I feel like we need more of that in the United States. So thank you for, again, pouring into them, and wish you and your school nothing but the best.
Thank you. Thank you to all your listeners.
Well, as always, a big shout out and a thank you to our guest Bertrand for being on the podcast today. Wish him and his school nothing but the best as they continue to grow and educate these kids that are going to their school. And as always, guys, I hope you learned at least one thing from today's episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, you can find us online at schoolsuccessmakers.com. We would love to hear from you. We'll be back next week with another awesome guest on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then.